The use of silver hydroperoxide that you make with the help of your various methods for making silver hydroperoxide, one being putting silver at the bottom of a cup and filling it with pure hydrogen peroxide, letting it fizz for a length of time, and then putting that solution into the bath. The bath methodology of absorbing silver hydroperoxide, I notice it does one thing, and it's not right to call it immunity from danger. That wouldn't be the right way to put it. It prevents the birth of an enemy if the enemy hasn't already been born. But it does so in the sense that if we have a liability for something, then we have a responsibility to take care of it. But if somebody wants to dump their liability onto us, give us guilt for something we never did, frame us, that's different. So that they get scot-free, they go scot-free, that's different. So taking a bath in silver hydroperoxide actually seems to do that. It seems to last for about a day. And I'll say for this reason. Something interesting arose. Somebody found fault with me, and I knew it was wrong. They just want to get off without any liability for associating with a bunch of criminals. Maybe they didn't commit the crime themselves, but they're a party to it in a sense. In a sense, because when you associate with criminals, that's what happens. And I know we like to believe in our government, but sometimes government is organized crime. Not all the time, but sometimes. Actually, quite rarely. But when it happens big time. It happens in a very big way. Like maybe a war. But this, taking children and them profiting from them on occasion, but in a very big way, to fund the court system of Ed Edelman's Children's Court is a very big deal. And it's organized crime, basically. And anybody who's a part of that, who's at the receiving end in a good way, in a beneficial way, are associating with criminals. And the silly thing about organized criminals, such as government, when it happens, they will never take responsibility for what they've done. They'll find somebody else. They've organized or prepared things to be in such a way that somebody else will take the fall, and it won't be them. Because it's so important, and it's imperative that the machinery remains immune from attack, even though it holds a lot of liability for what it's done. Even though it's been used in an abusive fashion by individuals who are less than honorable, no matter what the media have pumped them up to be. Ed Edelman did not do a nice thing. He did something evil and corrupt. But he thought he was doing the right thing. If the father is not known, then we are entitled to make a second birth record and make money off of it, because there's no family name to carry on. So we'll just give the foster child the foster family name, and who will care and be the wiser. But in my instance, it was abused because they darn well knew who the father was in court. But what was said in court stayed in court, so the lackeys, the bureaucratic lackeys outside of court, who put this through, unbeknownst to themselves, not knowing what they were doing, were lying. Because the court darn well knew who the father was. I just am not on my son's birth certificate because Sacramento, at Vital Statistics and Birth Records Office, gave me an argument how to fill out the form on my son's birth certificate, telling me how to do it, when it was none of their business. I was about to put my name down. No, you can't put down one name. Well, I have one legal name. I have a court-ordered, single, legal name. But I didn't bring my paperwork with me when I rushed to the hospital with my now ex-honey when she was about to give birth to our son. And I'd been there with her for 2 days. She was in labor for 3 solid days. And when I was with her, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't do anything. At least she was on IV. I wasn't on anything. No sleep, no fluid, nothing, no meditation, nothing. Just holding your hand for two days straight. You try and do that and come out and argue with somebody. It's not going to happen. So I never put my name down on my son's birth certificate. It's probably why they managed to make such a killing, and it was probably planned that way, because I'd be dumb enough not to be prepared. So they put through on the basis of fraud. Of course they knew who the father was, but they acted otherwise. And to do that meant they now could make a killing off of my son's second birth record that they put through. But they had to have a private party sign it. They're not going to sign it. They just, say, hey, do this, it'll all be good. And so that means the dimwit who put his name to it is now going to pay the penalty when it comes to light what he has done. And that's the complaint that came to me during meditation this morning. Having spent 2 days avoiding the bath because I felt I didn't need it. Well, I needed it, just not right away. But in that void of lack of protection, he reached me during meditation and complained that it was not his fault. He shouldn't be held accountable. Well, in a sense, he's right. But there's nothing I can do about that. He's a party to a crime by associating with a bunch of criminals. For whatever reason, he may think he's not committing a crime. I don't know all his details. He may have a reason for associating by being a small-time crook of his own. But he never thought he'd have to take the fall for the other criminals, the organized criminals, government, Ed Edelman Children's Court, who put through who authorized and gave their blessing that a second birth record should be made. But it's the unwitting hazard that this fellow in question put his name to it as the father, and I believe in all likelihood, and he's not even the foster father of my son. He's the foster mother's husband of a prior marriage that never got annulled or divorced, for all I know, because I never found the record. And I never found a record of her current husband's marriage. So there you go. It's a weird polygamy, which is not legally polygamous, because it's not. But he lives up the street from the foster family, and it's all documented on the primary video on my son's website that I fashioned for him, and on the YouTube channel that I made for him as well. Ed Edelman Children's Court YouTube channel, and the website is KyleOliverFeinberg.info, but it's also KyleAnthonyConnolly.info, and it's also WilliamMichaelConnolly.info and MichaelWilliamConnolly.info, because I wasn't sure which guy was responsible for doing what to whom. One of those, either the William Michael or the Michael William Connolly, is the one who lives up the street on Bircher Avenue, I believe, off of Gothic, which is off of Rinaldi, which is just northwest of my son's foster family. And he has a prior marriage, or somebody with his name, has a prior marriage to the foster mother on her so-called 20th birthday, which is, of course, made up. So is her maiden name made up. A lot of things are just made up. It's small-time crookery, which does kind of tie him to the big-time crookery, the Children's Court, who fashioned or authorized the fashioning of, and looked the other way and allowed the fashioning of this second birth record, because it was done in another state, Nevada, so they're not liable. It's sovereign immunity. It happened in another state. 11th Amendment protection. Really? Well, they might claim it. Why else would they be doing this? 11th Bill of Right protection to a government agency to get away with fraud. All for the purposes of making money. So, in that void of not having taken a silver hydroperoxide bath yet, I was sitting in meditation, and it was coming to me, this guy was pleading, his life was on the line, and I should fall rather than him. And this is why I avoided going to the latest summer 2016 Energy, Science, and Technology Conference, was because I knew my life was in danger, because he would find every avenue possible under the sun to try to get me to pay for his petty involvement in this very large-scale crime. this individual. And I'm trying to squeeze them to get my son back by pulling the rug out from their fraud. But I'm involving big-time crooks, along with the petty ones, who are as well involved. And so I'm a little concerned, but I put myself out there and then withdrew. And it was the minute I canceled my plane ticket, the next day, that's this morning, because I canceled it yesterday, this morning was when I get this response back during meditation, during waking up actually from sleep in the middle of the night. I was very disturbed. The anger, the animosity this fellow has because he can't carry out his objective in an easy way, making use of the police system because they don't like me having a son. They told my ex-honey so. We don't approve of Vinyasi being the parent, starting of a family, being the father of a family. Because I'm an activist. I stir things up. I stir up troubled people who want to keep things quiet and hidden away. Why? The duty of an activist is to bring it to light. That's the whole point. Well, I've made some enemies. And some of it are organized criminals because they use power in an abusive fashion outside of the law. But in the realm of public policy, which is something entirely different. So public policy is against me. I don't know if I should have anything against public policy, but public policy has something against me. And there are people who, there's enough people on this planet who are vengeful, oriented in their style of thinking, in which somebody else has to pay, not them, and they got to find the fall guy, and it happened to be me, and my little son is innocent. A little lamb, he doesn't know what's going on around him. Even though he was called a detainee, which is what you call a prisoner, when they took him initially from us. So this is stuff I've gotten wrapped up around, surrounding me, and nobody believes me. They laugh. Paralegals laugh. Lawyers ignore me. Nobody wants to touch this because they think it's too absurd. Somebody on YouTube called it spooky. Well, you be the judge. But the more I dig into this, the more I discover. And this is what I have to share with you. So silver hydroperoxide is useful. It's kind of like witchcraft in a sense, you could call it if you want to. I prefer to call it yoga because it's hygiene. It's simply staying clean. Whatever you do to your skin, you do to your social environment, to your exterior environment. Whatever you do to your mucosal membrane lining your intestinal tract, to your digestive system, from your mouth to your anus and your urethral tract, all of that has to do with you personally, your relationship with yourself. So, putting attention on diet, for instance, is taking care of yourself. But putting attention on your skin, what you do to your skin, whether you cover it, uncover it, what you bathe it in, that has an impact on your relationship with your environment. And as it happens, our environment, the biggest element in our environment is our society, not nature. You would think it would be nature, And this is why the nature hurts, because we bear down on her, Mother Nature, so heavily with a heavy hand. Burning her rainforests, polluting her waters, polluting the air, polluting the electromagnetic field. We're doing all kinds of crap. And it's her burden. It becomes her burden. And it strains her. Not to the breaking point yet, but it strains her nonetheless. Actually, yeah, it is to the breaking point because certain things have been broken down. Certain ecosystems, but we won't go there. You know all about that. My duty is to my son. It's unfinished business to get him back. To do that, though, means to stir up a hornet's nest and put myself at risk for retaliation. That means I stay here and I have a better chance of succeeding, or at least for a little longer duration, if they should manage to snuff me out. But there's a less chance of that happening because I put myself at risk when I leave my private domain, my domicile. My habitat. And so I didn't go on this trip. And I really am sorry, but I have to make choices, priority choices. Sacrifices is one way to put it, but, I can't do everything. I do want my son back. And by stirring up troubled people, I put myself at risk. And so now I can't handle both. It's more than I can handle. So I have to stay home. And I don't like it. It depresses me, but there's nothing I can do about it. I do want my son back, and the only way to do that is to stir up trouble, unfortunately. And so I have to stay home, take my baths, stay under my etheric weather engineering ceiling fan to keep my hopes up. That won't protect me, no. But to protect me from evil thoughts that are not mine to have. They're somebody else's. If they want to complain about their shitty situation that's criminalistic, even if it might be petty crime, it's none of my business. It's their business, their crap, their choices to have gotten involved in the way that they did. I shouldn't have to suffer for their mistakes, no matter how small they may be, no matter how petty they may be. They are what they are. And so that's the purpose of a bath, is to cleanse one's psyche of the mud. I was about to use the S-H-I-T word, right? Of the mud. There's somebody would like to share with me, their private moment, but in a way that's not exactly friendly, more like, well, like I said, they don't feel like they should have to be liable. Yet, what do you think I feel like? I've had my son taken from me. You think I like that? Hey, I'm in the same boat they are in a sense. So I'm trying to correct the area of my life, not theirs. I can't correct theirs. They're going to have to take care of their own. I'm having enough trouble just taking care of me. And so I let it be known, I gave notice to Stanley Genser that the website Kyle Anthony Conley, or KyleOliverFeinberg.info, I should say, is in existence, whether or not he paid attention or wanted to. And I gave notice to the foster family, thinking at the time that it was the foster family's liability, that it was their criminal act that made this all happen. Now I just know they're just the patsies because they put their John Hancock, so to speak, on the line. So that when the mud hits the fan, they'll be held liable, not Ed Edelman Children's Court. They'll walk away scot-free as organized criminals, maintaining their stance as organized criminals, unfortunately. And that's the justifiable complaint coming from this guy, William Michael or Michael William Conley. I'm so confused which one it is. It's a valid complaint, but he was a party to a crime, and that's nothing I can do to help him. I suffered, so why should I suffer? I'm not even the one who put this into motion. But it was my oversight to allow Sacramento to argue me out of putting my name on my son's birth certificate. So I'm trying to do what I can by putting my name on my own birth certificate. I haven't even done that much yet. When I changed my name a long time ago, I never bothered to change my birth certificate. I didn't think I had to. I'm not planning on leaving the country and wanting to get a passport so I can re-enter the country. Of course, there was a day when I changed my name that wasn't necessary, but that became the case after I changed my name. So now I got to change my birth certificate, and I haven't received a response back yet, so I don't even know if it's going to be easy, or whether or not I have to entertain an attorney to help me. But they gave me an argument at the hospital, and they got away with it because I was weak, and I wasn't prepared. And they just, we weren't prepared in a lot of different ways. They threw a lot of stuff at us to be able to take our son from us. And that was probably planned. And I know it was, actually, not probably, I know it was planned. And we have evidence it was planned. So the argument was probably planned as well. The telephone call, and the hospital not wanting to be involved. But they were, because they kept insisting that they had to call Sacramento. This wasn't right that I fill out the birth certificate with only one name. So it does feel like a setup, whether or not it really was. Whether or not it simply added fuel to the fire, so to speak, by creating an opportunity so that the matter could get worse than it was. Because we were switched. We didn't have Stanley Genser originally. We had somebody else. And they said, we're making it easy for you to give you somebody else. I don't think so. We were given Stanley Genser for a reason, because they realized they had a gem on their hands. So actually, I should correct myself. They may not have known in advance that they were going to make a killing off of me, or off of anybody. They find out as they go along, and I think that's what happened. And that's when they switched us to Stanley, away from that other lady that the mother of my son, my ex-honey, had her when she was a foster child. So they figured they just put her through the same ropes. But the lady is stern, can be pretty strict. And so they were told as well, this guy will go easier on you. Well, no, it just means he could make money, because it was a good opportunity. That's all it is. It was a good opportunity because I was not on my son's birth certificate. So I'm going to try to correct it, but it may be too late to cure what has happened by simply putting my name on my son's birth certificate. I realize that. It's too late, But at the very least, I'm doing what I should have done all along, but didn't do, and so it's that kind of thing. Make me feel good to do the right thing. But putting up in public venture, in public domain, my knowledge of what has happened and my understanding of what it means and what are what's going on behind the scenes, that's different. And then giving notice to the parties involved, that's also different because I'm rubbing it in their face. So I do have to be careful what I do now because I'm stirring up trouble for myself. So I have my daily routine to keep myself together in one piece, even though other people might be going to pieces over this. I at least have to keep myself together. And I don't know what the consequences will be. I haven't the vaguest clue, but I had to make a choice to avoid this trip because it was dangerous to make it and putting myself at risk, unnecessary risk. And I may not be able to ever go back. I would like to slowly, eventually get back together with these people because I like hanging around with them in Hayden, Idaho, or Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, wherever the conference is. I've given it away before, where I go once a year, so, kind of put me at risk. But why should I hold secrets? What, I'm supposed to be scared or something? No, I just do the right thing. So I took my detractors up to the last minute. I lost $900 or $800 on this planned trip. I'm not going to get that back because I wanted to go. And I didn't see any reason why I should honor my hunch not to go. I've had the hunch for 6 months not to go. But I said, no, I'm going to have fun. Why should I, set aside something that I know I get enjoyment from? But then a few nights ago, about 3 or 4, it came to me very clearly. And then I realized I needed to cancel. And I don't enjoy that. These are people I like to be around, so why should I, not go? But, I set myself up for this, so I have to stay home. Anyway,